We're back with Coach June Jones.
When you're recruiting players and coaches, how do you know that they're good people?
Well, I spend, time with them when on the recruiting weekend, and I rely a lot on our players. Our players host the recruits when they come in. They spend 48 hours with them, and they know who's a good guy and who's not a good guy. And they'll, and I ask them, I said, what do you think of so-and-so? And, oh, he's the best, he's a great kid. And then I'll sit down with him. And, you got to take some chances. I've taken some chances and won some of them and took some chances and on some other kids that haven't panned out. But really, to be quite honest, 3 of my best players were in jail when we recruited them. And they have been our best players, and they are the best kids that we've had. I mean, Pisa Tanoi Samoa, I really took a chance because of his mother. His mother was just the greatest lady I'd ever met, and I knew that there's no way that this kid doesn't have that, because I knew what his mom stood for. She's a very strong Christian lady, and I knew he had that in him to be a good kid. And sure enough, that's what happened. And then Colt Brennan, I think, has had some trouble, obviously, at Colorado. Nobody, believed, but I spent time with them, and I made all the phone calls to all his coaches, everybody, and they all said he's the greatest kid you'll ever be around. And guess what? He is one of the best I've ever had, pro or college, as far as quarterback physically and knowing how to handle everything else, the media, the team, the leadership, everything. And then Devon Best. Devon Best we actually saw him in a prison football game, and we recruited him, and he made freshman All-American, and he is one of the sweetest spirited kids I've ever been around. And you take a chance, you roll dice on some of those guys, and sure enough, they've panned out and they work good, and I've noticed they're very appreciative of the second chance that we've given them.
What's the reason that makes you motivated as a coach to give these guys a second chance? Because some people might just say it's just really going to bring a negative message to the team, and
Well, I think you have to have success with those kids. I mean, I remember bringing Pisa Tanoi Samoa to. I had to go to the president of the school because he was in prison when we signed him, and there's a certain trust that he had in me that I was going to do what I said I'm going to do with the guy. And I'm not going to take a chance on a kid if I don't think he can turn it around. I mean, a lot of kids you know right away that they're not going to turn it around. Well, then you're going to have a problem. I mean, you're going to have a problem. And I've stood by a lot of those kind of kids, and it's worked for me. And if they weren't in that trouble, we wouldn't get them. I mean, they go to UCLA, they go to USC, they go to Notre Dame. I mean, none of those kids would have gotten here. Pisa Tanoi Samoa was the only player in Southern California ever to be named offense and defensive player in his high school year. I mean, no player has ever done that in California. And nobody would touch him after he got in his gang trouble. And, after investigating, Dennis McKnight went up to his parole, his court hearing, and pleaded with the judge to, release him to us, and it worked.
What are you telling these kids, though? I mean, because, we're parents. We want to make sure that we're raising our children the right way. They do fall down. We want to pick them back up. What are you telling them so that you know and they know? It's like a secret message. This is what I expect of you.
Well, it's just that. They know what's expected. And it's like when I took over the football team that day I gave that speech, I told the team exactly what was going to be expected of them, that they had to be on time, that if you miss class or if you miss this, you're going to be allowed a break. We have a 3-strike rule. But if I decide after that, then you're done. You're not on the team anymore. And so sure enough, after that meeting, I laid out, don't be late for a meeting. Don't be late for practice. I want to know if there's a problem, you call me. Here's my cell number. I don't want to find out through somebody else where you are. You tell me why you're not at practice, and then I'll decide if it's a valid reason or not. And that's what we do. So sure enough, the leading rusher on that team was a kid named Charles Tharp. And I think on an 0-12 team, he'd rushed for over 1,000 yards. He was the top offensive player. And the other kid who turned out to be one of the great kids that I love, and Rinda Brooks, who started a business here washing windows and has really done very well. He was the leading tackler and had ability to play in the National Football League. Well, the first 2 or 3 meetings they were late to, so I cut them, and they're no longer on the team. Now that made a statement to the other 105 guys that what you say and what you do has to be the same. And if it isn't the same, then you cannot lead. You're compromised yourself. So here I just cut the 2 best players on an 0-12 football team, and we still won. Team has to be the reason for success. If it's not a prerequisite for that, if it's me before we, you'll never be as good as you can be. And that principle we have been able to instill in our teams. And that's why we've done some pretty unbelievable things.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned for more on Greater Good Radio.